Hello, hello. You're listening to Acciopolitics, a Harry Potter reread podcast that focuses on politics in the wizarding world. As always, I'm Adri, one of your hosts, and a recovering English major.
And I'm Helene, your co-host and producer.
How you doing, Helene?
I'm good. You sound a lot better. Like, you don't sound sick.
I still have a cough going on, but thankfully the snot has receded and I feel tired, but not as tired as I used to. So, antibiotics, just medicine, wonderful medicine.
Gotta love medicine.
Yeah, we are a pro-science podcast here.
Right. Western medicine is nice. I like it.
I like it too. How you doing?
I'm good. Just a couple of pretty exciting things happened for me this week. My birthday is really shaping up to be pretty special this year. It's my 30th. And not only did I book a trip to see one of my best friends, Kat, and go to this, we're going to a Potter convention in Boston.
Ooh.
And I'm going to see a couple other people from my MuggleNet fam there, which I'm really excited about. But later that week when I get home, I'm going to a Jonas Brothers concert. And it's at the State Fair, which is my favorite place. And it's 2 days after my birthday. And it's sixth row.
Row so 6, excited. Baby!
I'm so excited. I'm so excited. I got such good seats. I'm like, and they were like the cheapest that I could have gotten those seats. Like I got them during pre-sale. They weren't like those resale scalper crap. Got them for like the best deal, and I'm so freaking excited. I can't, like, my favorite band at my favorite event 2 days after my birthday in great seats. I'm like on top of the world.
I am thrilled for you.
Thank you.
I cannot even imagine a better birthday present. Maybe an American Girl doll, like the early aughts American Girl doll.
Right. Yes. That would be be pretty competitive with sixth row Jonas Brothers tickets.
Sure. No,
it would be really fucking awesome.
If she comes, sure. But only if she comes with like that computer, little computer that does the like dial-up tone.
Right. Yes. And then I have to take her to the concert with me, and then the question becomes: do I have to buy her another seat? Or can she just?
No, she's like an infant, like she can sit on your lap.
Perfect. And the Jonas Brothers won't think I'm weird at all seeing me 6 rows in front of them holding an American Girl doll at their concert. That won't concern them one bit, I'm sure.
I mean, if anything, it might get you invited upstage, is what I'm thinking.
The girl with the American Girl doll, get up here. Let's have some group therapy. You have some unresolved issues bringing a child's toy to this concert.
I'm just saying, in my fan fiction, this works out great for you.
I mean, sure. Let's try it out. Let's see what happens.
Oh, well, eventful news on my end. I have some news that I can't share just yet, but I will at the end of the month, I guess. And my child, I had to go get my child from daycare today because she was running a fever. So that's been very exciting in the household today. So yay for me.
I'm sorry, are you keeping a secret from me? Or do I know and the listeners not know? What's happening?
You know and the listeners don't know.
Oh, okay. I'm like, what?
So yeah, it's been, just having a child in daycare is like paying for only half the time. So it's been great.
Yeah, I'm just grateful I don't have to deal with that.
So I took her to the doctor, and the doctor said that because of lockdowns, which is, what we've been through in the last couple of years, now children, like some viruses kind of, quote, went away. And now that they're coming back, children are getting sicker because they kind of like the virus is mutated in like the absence of like transmission or whatever.
Okay.
So usually like babies my daughter's age would get sick like 8 times a year, like 8 fevers a year at daycare, and
Okay.
now they're up to like 15 or more
Oh, okay.
because of this. So it's like extra volume of instances of sickness in children.
Fun
So
stuff.
yeah, it's super fun to be me right now. But
Goodness
we're just taking it
gracious.
one day at a time.
You will get through it. You will, you will.
I mean, it's only what, 18 plus years of this?
Oh, I'm sure that the daycare woes do not last for 18 whole years, I
Oh
promise.
no, but I mean like, the parenthood woes.
Yeah,
I keep telling myself maybe it does get easier, then I'm like, no, I think it just gets different.
you
But it's
probably just
okay.
get
I
you'll get
mean,
used to it after a while, probably.
it's okay. I love her. It's fine.
That's good.
Sometimes I look at her and I'm like, you're so lucky, you're so cute, man. Like, you can get away with anything.
So you're saying if your baby was ugly, you wouldn't get away with anything?
I know. I'm also lucky she's cute. Imagine if she was ugly, man. With a face only a mother could love, but that mother probably wouldn't be me?
Oh man,
Just
we're
kidding,
horrible
guys.
people. We are horrible,
Yeah.
horrible people.
Speaking of horrible people, today we're going to be talking about chapter 33 of Harry Potter and the Deathly Hallows, focusing on one Severus Snape's memories, and it's titled The Princess Tale.
That's a great segue. Speaking of horrible
Yeah,
people, we're going to talk about Snape. Bravo.
I'm getting the hang of it, and we are ending this podcast. How sad is that?
Oh man. Oh, I didn't put this in the doc, but for Potter Watch, do we want to just touch on the Trump sexual assault stuff that happened yesterday?
Ooh, yes. So let's do that real quick. Okay, so Donald Trump sexually abused and defamed E. Jean Carroll, jury finds. The ex president must pay Miss Carroll $5 million. More than a dozen women have accused Mr. Trump of sexual misconduct, but this civil case was the only one tested before a jury.
Yeah, I mean, so good news and bad news. Good news, he's like finally the like being exposed for the sexual abuser that he is. Bad news that there probably won't be that many consequences for him.
Well,
For
it is civil court. It's not like this is
yes,
like.
yeah, like he's not getting jail time. Like it's a civil case. He is being fined the $5 million for it, but I think there's a possibility that he won't have to pay that.
Well,
Um,
because he's probably going to go to the Court of Appeals for this.
yeah. Um, and sadly, because his base is so incredibly like I don't know if stubborn's the word, but this is not going to affect how people vote for him.
Well, this is not going to affect how people perceive him anyway, because
Right.
let's be real. They got him on, tape saying, like, grab them by the
Yep.
P word. And that didn't affect turnout. That didn't, like, affect anything. So I don't think this is
Yeah.
going to affect.
I mean, yeah, there is a difference between like bragging about sexual abuse and like being found guilty by a jury of sexual abuse.
Is there, though? Because I feel like one is more admissible than the other because he's bragging about it.
Well, I mean, you can people who have huge egos brag about shit that they don't do or get all the time.
Yeah, but like the thing that I'm trying to get to at is that his base doesn't care about sexual abuse against women
Yeah, I
that he
mean, if it wasn't
perpetrated.
if it wasn't an issue that he was like that's like where his mind was in the beginning, then it's
And it's
not
not going to be an issue
surprising that
now.
then it's not surprising it won't be an issue when it actually when we it's proven that he actually has done those things. It's just like you would hope that he would face some consequences, but yeah, being found guilty of this in a civil court doesn't affect his ability to run for office. Um, and yeah, he probably won't face consequences in general. And if so, I mean, But I still, it's like a half a check in the win column, just because, like, like, look, dude, a jury found you guilty. You are
Yeah, no, I agree with
you
that.
are
But
a
what I'm
shitty
saying,
person.
yeah. Well, as you know, this is like you preaching to the choir. Yeah, like, yeah, he was a shitty person. I agree with that. Anyone
Speaking of
who,
shitty people,
yeah, anyone who, like, sexually assaults women or, is an
right?
incel, shitty person. Speaking of which, let's go with what happened in the chapter.
Yeah, I'm not that I don't think Snape ever sexually assaults anybody, so I don't want Snape fans to come at us for
Oh, but
like
I
implying
did
that.
say kind of incel-like is a shitty
Yes,
person, which,
yes, we'll get into that, but yes, I just will clear and say I don't believe Snape sexually assaults anyone in the books, if I'm remembering correctly, but he is still a shitty person.
someone that I do not consider like a heroic figure, let's just say.
Yeah, I have my issues with him, and I'm sure you do as well.
Yeah. Let's dive deep on in. What happened this
Okay.
chapter, Helene?
Well, this is the one where the author tries to convince us that Snape wasn't actually a bad guy when all she really does is successfully make me loathe him even more.
Oh, is this
Um,
some editorializing?
I was like, okay, but seriously, like, I actually have a chapter summary, but that is that is what the chapter is about. Just in case you're wondering, that is what the chapter is about.
That is what the chapter is about for Helene specifically.
I don't. Hey, for you too, you probably agree with that. I'm sure you do.
I'm just saying, usually we don't do a lot of editorializing like this
No,
in the
no.
chapter summaries,
No, we
Helene.
don't. But in case you guys are unclear as to my thoughts on this, anyway, so this is what's here. This was what actually happened in the chapter. This is the one where, after collecting Snape's memories from him as he's dying, Voldemort gives Harry one last ultimatum and demands he show up in the forest within the hour. In the meantime, he's called off the Death Eaters at the castle and given people time to gather their dead and mourn. Harry sees Lupin and Tonks, both dead beside Fred's body, and decides he can't deal, so he runs up to Dumbledore's office to witness Snape's memories. The memories show that Snape and Lily had been childhood friends since before their time at Hogwarts together, but Snape's proclivity for the dark arts, and ultimately calling Lily a mudblood, effectively ends their friendship. We then see Snape, a full-on Death Eater now, begging Dumbledore to help him save Lily's life after Voldemort learns of the prophecy. We see all that Snape has done for Dumbledore throughout the years in an attempt to keep Harry alive after Lily's murder, and ultimately Dumbledore explains to Snape what Harry needs to do to end this war.
Dun dun dun.
Yeah, I mean it's a peek behind the curtain for sure, and like there are very small amounts of things I like in this chapter. One being the fact that like we do kind of like get a ton of answers, and
Mm-hmm.
some of them are pretty satisfying. Like the whole backstory of like what happened to Dumbledore's hand, and
Yeah.
why Snape ultimately killed Dumbledore. Like that was actually pretty interesting plot like
Honestly,
development.
honestly, that was the only part of this chapter that I thought made a good case as to why Snape was redeemable in only the murder of Dumbledore, nothing else.
Yeah, no, I don't. Yeah, I don't blame Snape for murdering Dumbledore. I
No,
don't
no, no,
think
but
I.
that's what I'm
Yeah,
saying. Like,
yeah,
this was supposed to be a redemption arc, right?
right.
So when I think about this chapter and, rereading this chapter, I'm thinking the only thing that is redeemable in this entire chapter about Snape is this one specific instance
Yeah,
where we learn about this backstory. Everything else doesn't do a good job of redeeming him in my eyes.
yeah. And I, honestly, if like we had a whole separate episode just about that, I feel like we could really dig into like the morality and ethics of assisted suicide, because I think that's really interesting, like in a
Mm-hmm.
really interesting
Mm-hmm.
conversation. Unfortunately, I did not choose that for my top politic this week, and I don't think you did either. But
No.
it is a very interesting, like, just something to think about, too,
Well,
because
it's not only like assisted suicide if you think about it, because it's more than that. It's also like saving a child from committing
right,
murder
yeah,
to save his family, right? So it's it goes beyond assisted
yeah,
suicide.
yeah. Like Dumbledore had just accepted the fact that he was going to die either way, and it was giving Dumbledore um, agency and how he decided he wanted that to go down. And I think that that's actually really noble of Snape to do, even though it's like hurts. Like it's like it like risks his own soul. Murdering another human being is never an easy thing to do.
Yeah.
And but he's giving Dumbledore like that dignity and giving him a choice into how he wants to die when he's accepted that he's going to die no matter what
And
happens.
it also serves the greater purpose of making Snape a more trusted um, agent in
Mm-hmm.
Voldemort's inner circle, which serves the purpose also of furthering Dumbledore's agenda. So it kind of has like these like
Yeah,
layers to it. That is the only thing that I have no problem redeeming Snape for. It's
right.
the rest, and
Same.
we can get into that later.
Yes, yes, for sure. Yeah. Yeah, I remember reading the books for the first time when we found out that Snape, like when we read Half Blood Prince and we saw Snape kill Dumbledore at the end of that book, I was like, there is no explanation that can make this okay. I will never forgive Snape. This is awful. Like this is irredeemable. And this chapter, like the way that she handled that one thing, I was like, okay, I get that actually. Like
Yeah.
I that I can understand. The rest, no.
No.
But that, yeah, fine. You
Well,
got
speaking
me.
of the rest, let's talk about your politics because I feel like our politics talk about the rest.
Yeah, yes. So my politic, I am a psychology major. I went to school and got my Bachelor of Arts in psychology. And abnormal psychology was honestly like one of my favorite parts of, though I took multiple classes on that. And we learned all about these different like personality disorders and things like that. And I do remember when I learned about this in class, the specific disorder that I'm going to discuss, like I definitely thought of Snape. And so I felt like I just had to deep dive into it a little bit. It's called obsessive love disorder, or OLD for short.
Beautiful use of an acronym,
Yeah, right.
let's just say.
Yes, obsessive love disorder. So I have a couple of different, what do you call it, sources that I included. One is the Integrative Life Center, and then one is Healthline. And I kind of combined what they both had to say on this. So, obsessive love disorder refers to a condition where you become obsessed with one person you think you may be in love with. You might feel the need to protect your loved one obsessively, or even become controlling of them as if they were a possession and not a person. Does it sound familiar yet?
Oh, not at all. Not ringing any bells, just the
Um,
entire row of bells.
well, just strap on in because we're gonna. There's more. So
But
they
wait, there's more.
right, exactly. So first, I'll talk about the risk factors for obsessive love disorder, and I think we might see a couple of these reflected in our Snapey, our Severus. The first one is neglect. So, childhood neglect can hinder a person's ability to form healthy attachments later in life. Neglect can create anxiousness, insecurity, or possessiveness surrounding relationships, which can worsen love disorder symptoms. And they made that very, very, very clear in this chapter that Snape was 100% neglected in his childhood.
Mm-hmm.
He was not dressed correctly. His parents like basically ignored him when they weren't, like when his dad wasn't like beating him, they were ignoring him. And obviously that's awful. Like Snape had a horrible childhood. And this is a different, like, I'm not even going to get into this entire debate on like the, nature versus nurture, and like how abuse, like, whether or not it should excuse the behaviors.
Mm-hmm.
Because I feel like we've had this conversation before, and all I gotta say is like, just look at Harry. Harry and Snape had very similar childhoods. Harry was neglected. Harry was abused. all of the things, and Harry did not turn out to be the type of person that Snape turned out to be, and there's a reason for that, so that's all I'm going to say on that. But um, but as in terms of a risk factor for obsessive love disorder, neglect and abuse are two huge risk factors. I explained why neglect was. Abuse is a risk factor because past physical or emotional abuse can result in long-term feelings of emptiness and pain, and love disorder symptoms seem to be a way to cope with a void created by past trauma. And then low self-esteem is another risk factor, and persistent feelings of worthlessness or lacking a solid sense of self can cause a person to blur boundaries to feel loved. I see that very,
Mm-hmm.
very much in the Severus Lily relationship. And then the last one is erotomania. So erotomania is a rare delusional disorder that may cause a person to believe that a specific person is their destiny. Obsessive love can intensify delusions of healthy or non-existent relationships. Now, like, the existence and like colloquialism of erotomania in like today's society is usually used in terms of like people who stalk celebrities, like people
Okay.
who like it's well known for like people who are like convinced that they are in love or with someone that they've literally never met, and that like it gives them a reason to like stalk a celebrity, like someone who they've literally never had any like interaction with before in their life, but like they've made this delusion in their minds that they're like meant for each other and that like they're supposed to be together or whatever it is.
So, like me and Chris Pine is what you're saying.
Exactly like you and Chris Pine.
Just kidding, guys.
Like me and Daniel Radcliffe. Like I know we're gonna get married one day. It's fine. Um,
I
yeah,
mean, you could
no,
be a great stepmom to his child.
yes, I would. I would be a great stepmom. Uh, but yeah, in this, so it's not always like that. So I know, like, I just wanted to clear that up because I'm sure if anybody that's listening to this has heard of erotomania, it's possible that like the only context they've heard of it in is like the other person doesn't know, like they don't know them. But that's
But in a
not.
way, it kind of also fits because Lily didn't know Snape existed until like that really rehearsed like first interaction
That's
that
true.
they've had. And, like he had been spying on her and
Yeah.
Petunia for apparently a very long time.
Yeah. Harry, like, Harry's inner narrative at some point, like, after that whole thing goes horribly wrong, Harry is like, I can tell that, like, that's not how he had hoped that would go, which means that
And
he
that
had been thinking about it. Yeah.
he could tell that it was like really rehearsed.
Yeah. So, yeah, it's just, it can, erotomania can happen between two people that do know each other. It's just, like, it's like a fancy term for, like, super, super unrequited love.
Yeah.
Like,
Or, just kind of, could it be also like you have this idea of who the person is in your mind and that idea does
yes.
not match the
Yes.
reality of that person?
Yeah, you are in love with the idea of the person. Yes. And then, but
Of like
then,
something you've built up in your mind.
yes, but then obsessive love disorder takes that and like makes it so that you try to make the person into the idea
Yeah, exactly.
of
Like to
what
fit
it is.
that mold that you've created for
Yes.
them.
Yes. And then if they don't do it and if they like go against it, then like you can get violent towards them basically. Or like
Oh, this fits with my
lash out.
politics. So we can talk, yeah,
Okay.
we can like talk about
So,
that.
and then the only other thing I wanted to touch on before we get to your politic are the symptoms, which I think we've kind of touched a little bit, but I'll go through the ones that they list here just so we can. I'm just making it extremely clear and obvious how this is Snape and Lily. Like, okay.
Okay, yeah, go ahead.
So
Go
the
off,
first,
queen.
so the first one is overwhelming attraction to one person. Check. Possessive thoughts and actions. Feeling the need to protect the person you're in love with. Check. Obsessive thoughts about the one person. So there's possessive thoughts and obsessive thoughts. And then extreme jealousy over other interpersonal interactions. Excuse me. He hates an entire child just because of his resemblance to the one person that he is more jealous of than anyone in this entire world. Um, and that's James fucking
Yeah.
Potter, and that's literally he literally just like I I can't. Okay. And then repeated messaging via text, email, or phone calls. Now, obviously, like in the time of Harry Potter, that's not a thing, but like
Yeah, but he threatened to like fall asleep outside the dorm.
yes. So like, and that's we'll get that to that in my quote because I
Sorry.
actually no, I didn't. Oh, never mind. I was going to pick that quote, but I didn't. I didn't pick that quote. But yeah. So
But that's
yes, he
kind of like
does.
the obsessive. Yeah.
Yes, yes. He like is like, oh, I'm just gonna sleep outside your dorm until you talk to me. Like that's like I'm not going to leave you alone until you talk to me.
Yeah.
Um, and then monitoring the other person's actions, which I don't know if we ever get like confirmation that he does that. Oh no, he does when he's like
He does.
stalking
He
him
does.
and him and Petunia. But yeah,
Well,
and then
no, no, but also that, not just that, but also like, oh, I know that Potter has a thing for you. Like, how would he know? How would he know if he hasn't been like monitoring how they
yeah,
interact with each other?
yeah, exactly. Inability to tolerate time away from a person,
Mm-hmm.
blurring or crossing boundaries,
Mm-hmm.
anxiety, which I mean everybody has that, and then controlling behavior, which controlling behavior is part of kind like I touch a little bit on that in my in my quote. So, um, yeah, all of these things. It's just like yeah,
It's
it's like you're
interesting.
reading. I was just gonna say it's like you're reading like a what do you call it? And what's the word? The description of Snape. Anyway, go on.
Yeah, no, it's interesting how your politic and my politic are kind of in conversation with each other because my politic is the politic of insult culture, which I know that a lot of listeners might have, been colloquially kind of immersed in what insult culture means currently. But I found this quote. It says, how do members of extremist groups think about violence conducted by individual members on the group's behalf? We examine, this is from like an article. We examine the link between extremism motivated violence and extremist groups through a case study of misogynist incels, a primarily online community of men who lament their lack of sexual success with women. To learn how misogynist incels talk about mass violence committed by members of their group, we conduct a quantitative content analysis of 3,658 comments relating to the 2018 Toronto van attack, in which self-declared incel Alec Minassine drove a van into pedestrians, killing 10 and injuring 16. We find overwhelming support among self-proclaimed incels for the attack and violence more generally.
Wow.
Incels viewed mass violence as instrumental, serving the following four main purposes: garnering increased attention, exacting revenge, reinforcing masculinity, and generating political change. Our findings indicate that the need to examine misogynistic incels as potential terrorist groups and male supremacism as a basis for terrorism. Also, don't know if you knew this, but incels are more likely by far to support right-wing extremist causes. So, like Death Eaters, perhaps?
Yeah, no, that makes sense.
Which, I mean, if you take a step back, right? What attracted Snape to Death Eaters? Other than probably like quote unquote being a Slytherin, because that doesn't mean that you're going to be a
It just
Death
made
Eater,
it's like
right?
being a Slytherin was like a gateway drug. Like
Yeah,
it made it
what would
easier, but yeah,
yeah, but that there's like, Peter Pettigrew, right? So
right.
being a Death Eater was probably something that made him feel powerful and like more in control of his destiny because he probably felt out of control, in his life because of many reasons. One, including the fact that he couldn't get the girl that he wanted, right? Like it's someone else's fault. It's not his fault that Lily didn't love him. It's someone else's fault, even Lily's fault, right? So, and that becomes a reason to join to reclaim his power, reclaim his masculinity. And he doesn't care about everyone who is dying until she is the person who is on Voldemort's kill list.
And even then, he
And even
only
then,
cares
he doesn't
about
care.
her.
Yeah, and he doesn't care about her child and husband.
Yeah.
He doesn't care about
That
her
was
happiness.
disgusting. That was
Yeah,
just
yeah. No,
absolutely
so the
disgusting.
thing is that I want
Yeah.
to get to is the way that your politic talks, kind of is in conversation with my politic, is to
Right.
where the incel is kind of the other side of the coin of your politic, in the way that they both look at the object of affection as an object. Because he's not that he loves Lily to the point where he wants her happiness. No, 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 no,
Nope.
no.
Nope. Nope.
He
Nope.
wants to possess her, right? He
Right.
wants her to be breathing, even if that is breathing and miserable, right?
Mm-hmm.
He wants her to be alive, not happy, alive. Those are two very different things, right? And
Because if she's alive, he has a chance to be with her
correct,
still. Yeah.
correct. So that's so on the one hand, yours is like this obsessive love disorder, right? Has its supposed roots on love, which is not real love, and we know that, right? But
Right.
on the other hand, like the incel is like, what happens when where that quote unquote love festers and it becomes so unrequited that you
Mm-hmm.
start blaming others for your lack of success, right? Like it could
Right.
flip very easily into incel culture. And that could motivate someone to join extremist groups when they feel like they have no power, no control, and that they can justify very violent events because of how they feel. Because it's all about how they feel, it's not about anyone else.
Yeah. Yeah. I think like a huge undercurrent of both yours and my politics are it's all about control. It's all about like people turn to violence or turn to like these extreme measures because of a feeling of a lack of control. And usually in this specific instance, it's a lack of control over a person. That person makes them feel like they do not have control because they are not like bending to the will or whatever of what he wants and doing whatever the fuck he wants to be with him. And so that lack of control is the thing that like triggers the more extremist behavior because they are just doing whatever they can to feel like they have that control again.
And if I was thinking about this, of course, a lot, and like if you zoom out even more, like the incel type mentality, Voldemort, we don't know anything about like his romantic aspirations if he ever had any. Let's pretend he didn't have any, right? But if you view how he sees himself as, let's pretend like his romantic aspiration is power, right?
Mm.
He is like, I will get power and no one is going to get in my way. And I have to acquire power at all costs. So that like attaining power, achieving power, I am owed power. Power is me. Like will no longer be powerless. Like all these things is very like incel like I am owed these things that people keep trying to not like to not let me live up to my potential.
Mm-hmm.
Because like the whole thing with incel culture is like, I'm not getting laid because these women are holding on me, and like I am owed this sex. As a man, I am owed this, period.
Yeah.
How dare they?
Yeah.
Because they're
Yep.
not people, they're objects.
Yeah. It honestly just really concerns me because reading this chapter and just like even the cultural phenomenon that happened surrounding like this information in this chapter happening, like I think it's very obvious that the author was trying to make this seem like this was true love and Snape was in love with Lily and did everything for love and it's noble and it's beautiful and like he's redeemable for it. And the people who believe that, like, I'm genuinely like,
I'm
I'm
confused
concerned. I'm
and
concerned.
concerned.
Yeah. Um, like, how in the hell does the author make, like, expect me to believe? Because, like, I feel like it's like I feel a gaslight. It's like one of those things, and this happens a few times, just like in literature and fiction in general, when it's obvious that the creator or the writer is like trying to get you to, like, is writing a piece of fiction, and like it's obvious their intent is to like make you feel one way about it, but you're like, why do you think I'm going to feel this way about it? Like, that's just not, like, I
Well,
feel
especially
gaslit.
when you make a whole like point about him being like, I don't care if the husband and the child dies, you know?
Yes, right. It's like, oh,
That's a big
like
thing.
people read it sometimes, I think, as like, oh my god, he loves her so much, and he just hates James because James was his bully, and like that's fine. Like he just loves Lily so much that he just really wants her to live, and he cares about her more than anything else in the entire world. It's like, but what about her child? Her child is completely innocent. Her child is not James Potter. Her child did not bully him. Her
Okay,
child,
and then let's also kind of zoom out a little bit more for a moment. She has agency, she is a person, and she chose James.
right? Yes,
So have
100%.
some respect for her choice,
Mhm.
and let's not try to get her husband murdered.
Right. And it's like what you said earlier about how, like, he doesn't care about her happiness. He, and people who like true love, like, you want to see that person happy. If you
Yeah,
don't want to see the
even if it's
person you
not with
love
you.
happy, yeah, if you don't want to see the person you love happy, like, that, I just, that's just not love. I don't know what to say other, like, that's not love. I don't, if
Yeah,
you do
like
not care that the person is unhappy, what are you doing?
look, I mean, love, let's say first of all, they were never in a relationship. So first of all, it
Right.
wasn't like his feelings were ever reciprocated. Second of all, had they ever been in a relationship, not every relationship works out, no matter how much the people love each other, because there are real world and things that happen where it's like, yeah, it couldn't work out because of either internal or external factors that have nothing to do or everything to do with you, right?
Hmm.
But if what you're doing is clinging on and holding back someone from where they want to be, where they, you know, with their agency want to be, right?
Hmm.
Because you cannot imagine your life without them or whatever, or even if you know that they're going to be happier without you, you know what, dude? Like, that is not love.
No, not at all.
But also,
You,
they were never in a relationship.
yeah, I mean, unrequited love would have been an easy one to go with because that's what it was. I mean, the thing is that that's
But
what it's
this
like.
goes beyond.
Yeah, no, like that's what people refer to it as, unrequited love. But the thing is, unrequited love requires love, and I don't think that he loved her. I think he was obsessed with her. I think he loved the
Also,
idea of her.
unrequited love also requires um your like on his part, right? Or like on the quote unquote loser person's part. I don't know how else to say it. Um,
Rejected. I don't know.
some rejectee, I don't know, on that person's side, some acknowledgement that that person does not return your feelings and that you don't have a chance with that person, but he never acknowledges that.
Yeah, I mean, the quote. I'm going to read my quote because that's
Okay,
kind of
yeah,
a
go ahead.
good. It's kind of a good like lead into my quote. So, um, my quote is, "You're not going to. I won't let you. Let me. Let me." Lily's bright green eyes were slits. Snape backtracked at once. I didn't mean. I just don't want to see you made a fool of. He fancies you. James Potter fancies you. The words seemed wrenched from him against his will. And he's not. Everyone thinks big Quidditch hero. Snape's bitterness and dislike were rendering him incoherent, and Lily's eyebrows were traveling farther and farther up her forehead. I know James Potter's an arrogant toe rag, she said, cutting across Snape. I don't need you to tell me that, but Mulciber's and Avery's idea of humor is just evil. Evil, Sev. I don't understand how you can be friends with them. Harry doubted that Snape had even heard her strictures on Mulciber. I can't say that guy's name. On Mulciber and Avery. The moment she had insulted James Potter, his whole body had relaxed, and as they walked away, there was a new spring in Snape's step. So a couple things here. First, the controlling behavior right at the beginning. I won't let you. Like, he's trying to control her. Obviously, she is not having it, and she shuts that shit down immediately. So thank God. But it's obvious that like he has the desire to control her in a way, even if he's not successful. And then the extreme jealousy that just like so there's part of this quote kind of just makes it seem like he only wants to be with Lily because that would mean that James Potter wouldn't be able to be with Lily. Like part of it is like it really just sounds some of it is like he cares more about not letting James Potter get what he wants rather than just be wanting it and getting what he wants. It's more about not letting the other person have it.
Yeah.
And so that's part of that reads that like that to me. And then this last part where Snape, it's obvious that like Snape just like ignored her for the last like half of what she said because he was just so happy that she like insulted James. And that is just, I think, illustrates that like she's an object to him. He's not listening to her. He doesn't care what she has to say. He doesn't care about her opinion. She doesn't care that he doesn't care that she's like expressing concern for the like evilness of the people that he's hanging around. He doesn't care about her. He just is just happy that she doesn't want to be with James.
And another thing that is not love, right? Like in a relationship, if you don't like something about your significant other or even a friendship, like you're like, hey, I find this a little bit concerning, troubling, right? And the person's giving you feedback right back. You don't just like ignore the other feedback, right? Like it's a give and take in a friendship and a relationship and anything, right? Like he wants to give all the feedback and take none of it because what he wants is control. And he wants to control her, and he wants her to be in Slytherin. Like, this is as early as the Hogwarts Express.
Right. Yeah. I mean, like, just the whole section here just really illustrates that he thinks of her as an object to be one to something that, like, he wants to take away James Potter's toy. He wants to have the thing so that James Potter can't have it. And it's just really, really fucking sad that like this is what we're meant to believe while reading this, that he just loves her so much, and that's why he cares so much, because he loves her.
Yeah, call bullshit on that.
Anyway, what about you? What was your quote?
Well, speaking of bullshit, all right, it's the following. If she means so much to you, said Dumbledore, surely Lord Voldemort will spare her. Could you not ask for mercy for the mother in exchange for the son? I have asked him. You disgust me, said Dumbledore. And Harry had never heard so much contempt in his voice. Snape seemed to shrink a little. You do not care, then, about the deaths of her husband and child? They can die as long as you have what you want.
King! Dumbledore saying what's on everybody's mind. King.
Correct. He came correct. So it's this idea of, these acts of violence perpetrated in the name of regaining his masculinity, regaining power, regaining control. And he does not even stop to think about what Dumbledore just like said until Dumbledore like just says it to his face.
And even then, I don't think it makes him think twice. I think he still does not give a shit if James or Harry dies.
No, absolutely not. He's just afraid of Dumbledore.
Yeah. I just like a child. Like, you're completely fine with a child being murdered as long as the person who does not return your obsession is not murdered. Like you don't you
Well,
what?
also, like, and I know I said this earlier, but was a person with agency and a person who chose James as a partner, a life partner for her happiness, and he cannot even respect that decision. Disgusting.
I can't. Yeah. Yeah. Anyway, my character is Snape because
Obviously, mine too.
I mean because obviously because yes. Yeah. No, Snape.
How do we see each other's politics in the series? Okay, Helene. Obsessive love
Snape?
disorder. We see Snape being a dick to Harry the entire time, and now we're supposed to think that it's because he has this tortured, like obsessive love disorder backstory. No, thank you. Also, why then is he like, you know, horrible to Neville? Is he also in love with his mom?
Well, because if Voldemort had killed Neville instead of gone to Harry's house, then Lily would be alive.
Whatever.
I've heard that from other people. Like that's the reason why he's so cruel to Neville because
Okay, so why is he cruel to Hermione?
Yeah, I mean, there's no because she's a mudblood and he's actually still a Death Eater. Like, I mean,
Like,
maybe she's a reminder of everything that he like did wrong with Lily because she's also like a Muggle born who's extremely bright. Like, I don't know.
yeah, I mean, but why is he should not be around children, first of all, is my
100%.
take.
Yeah. Yeah.
Also, once again, I am imploring the wizarding world to get some therapy in it.
Yeah. And I mean, for yours, Incel, I mean, it's just Snape, man. I just like, I don't know. I don't think there are any other incels in the series. Well,
Well,
Voldemort,
I
maybe.
feel like I feel like incel culture could very much lead into a Death Eater mentality, right? Like,
Right.
if we take away the sexual aspect of it, we
Mm-hmm.
are owed something, right?
Mm-hmm.
Fill in the blank.
Mm-hmm.
Kind of like that idea of like white people are owed things, right? That
Right.
that kind of thing. That's very much of like a distant, like that's why there's kind of some fluidity between both cultures of like,
Right.
oh yeah, I will support this cause, right? Because it's got that same. I don't want to sound super Valley Girl about this, but it has the same vibe.
I say that shit all the time.
It just has the same vibe, guys.
I love it. Vibes are cool. I like vibes.
Anyway, speaking of vibes,
Speaking of vibes.
vibe killers, Dementors, and vibe gibbers, chocolate. Let's talk about our vibe killers this chapter.
Yeah, I mean, this was pretty. I obviously I was not a huge fan of this chapter as a whole. And I think I've already touched on this a little bit, but like Snape literally not giving one single shit that the child of the woman he claims to love, a literal baby, would die, and literally only asking Dumbledore to help save Lily's life and no one else's. That moment was my Dementor in this chapter. Literal
Yeah,
scum.
no, yeah. Well, I have two quotes, or moments, right? So the first moment is when Voldemort tries to like guilt Harry into being like, you should give yourself up because you've, basically let people die for you
Mm,
on your behalf or
yep.
whatever.
Yep.
And I'm just like, first of all, gross. Second of all, you do even worse because you weren't even like on the front lines here.
Yeah.
Just total vibe killer. Other vibe killer.
total vibe killer. Right.
Also, big incel energy from Voldemort.
Right. Yes. Agreed.
If Harry was a woman that he wanted to have sex with.
I mean, maybe Voldemort's gay. I don't know.
Who knows? Another vibe killer is I have spied for you and lied to you, put myself in mortal danger for you. Everything was supposed to keep Lily Potter's son safe. Now you tell me you have been raising him for paying for slaughter? But this is touching, Severus, said Dumbledore seriously. Have you grown to care for the boy? After all? For him? After all? For him, shouted Snape. Expecto Patronum from the tip of his wand burst a silver dough. Wow, wow, wow. After all this time, always. Nah, nah, nah.
Oh my
Vibe killer.
god.
Instant vibe killer.
This part was laughable. I'm like, okay, so you just made me read this entire chapter about how Snape obviously does not give, like I said earlier, one single shit about Harry. And then
Yeah,
you turn
yeah,
around and you're like,
no.
oh my god, I can't believe you're raising him as a pig to the slaughter. Snape, you don't give a shit. You don't care.
Also, I would like to make this my open letter to whoever does the creative marketing decisions for Warner Brothers
Oh
and the
my
Harry
god.
Potter. Um, what? Could you let me finish?
I know exactly what you're going to say. And I agree.
And the whole Harry Potter Wizarding World franchise, whatever, like properties. Could we stop with the after all this time, always bullshit? Can we stop?
The least romantic thing. And like it is a romance killer. It is the least romantic, and when people use that for like their weddings and shit. And I'm
Guys,
like,
it literally, if this was like some form of foreplay, my insides would be as dry as the Sahara Desert.
yeah.
It would
It's
be
like
sandpaper in there.
after all this time, you're still obsessed with her? Always obsessed with her because I have obsessive love disorder and she is the object of my
My,
obsession.
not to be crude, but I would seal up down there like a Barbie doll. I would not have anything there. Just nothing.
Yeah. God. It's just my god.
Disgusting.
Um now
I
that
felt myself become a virgin again. This is how bad it is.
I closed my cup. Yeah, I get it. Before we get into the chapter chocolates, I do have a chocolate recommendation.
Ooh, give me your real vibe giver.
Okay. So I have rekindled my love for Trader Joe's, and part of that is because I am going to be in July. I'm moving to a new apartment, which is right next door to a Trader Joe's, so I'm kind of reacquainting
Humble brag.
myself. I know I'm really fucking excited. I'm reacquainting myself with like the stuff they have because it's been like a year or so at least since I've like regularly shopped at a Trader Joe's, and I went there last week to stock up on some of my recent favorites, and I came across these. I'm showing them to Adri, but you guys obviously
Loose
can't see them.
flowers.
Yeah, so they are mini chocolate mousse flowers, and they're velvety chocolate cakes layered with silky mousse. So basically,
Ooh.
it is a layer of chocolate cake, and then a thicker layer of mousse, and then covered in like this thin, like white chocolate
Mm-hmm.
to hold it all together. It is the best thing I've possibly ever put in my mouth. By far the by far the best thing I've ever had at Trader Joe's, and probably ever will
I'm
have.
sorry. Like my mind just went to the gutter because I was just talking
Hey,
about
everything included. I said what I said. I stand by it. Literally, I can't. Like the mousse is like perfection. Like the best mousse. Imagine the best chocolate mousse that could ever have been made ever. And maybe you haven't even had something this good before. Just imagine the best mousse. And it's here. And then it's
okay.
on top of a nice, very soft, like moist, succulent, like layer of chocolate cake. Oh my god, it's so good.
Have you ever had, speaking of Trader Joe's, the chocolate dip Dunkers?
No, I haven't. I've seen them.
Okay, so that's another Trader Joe's recommendation from Adri. They are chocolate chip cookies. They're like elongated. They're supposed to be dunked on milk. I don't dunk them on milk. I just put them in the freezer because I like
Oh,
really cool
I would dunk them in
chocolate.
my coffee. That's what I would do. I would dunk them in my coffee.
And it has like a layer of chocolate at the bottom.
That sounds good.
And they're
like a
like
biscotti
crispy
kind of.
chocolate chip. Yeah, they're crispy chocolate chip. Great for dunking, obviously, because they're a little bit crispy. But also, if you put them in the freezer, like I put them in foil, I wrap them in foil, like a little foil pouch, right? And
Mm.
I put them in the freezer to get that chocolate real cold and nice. And then I munch them. Nom, 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 nom. They're the best.
That's how you
Nom,
eat
nom,
them.
nom, 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 nom. Yeah.
Like a little squirrel.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh my gosh. Amazing. Well, guys,
Speaking of
if you
squirrels,
if you have a chance to go to Trader Joe's, just run, do not walk, run to Trader Joe's and get these flowers. I swear to God.
and actually, most of their desserts are pretty good. But
Yes.
depending on what you like, they'll have something for you, I'm sure.
Oh yes.
Speaking of squirrels, Lily's top teeth are coming in, and they're huge.
Cute, cute, cute.
They look like little chiclets, like remember the square chiclets?
Oh my
They
gosh,
look
yeah,
just
my
like that.
grandma always had chiclets in her purse.
Oh, grandma. Was she nice though? Because my grandma wasn't. So
My
one
grandma's
of
still
them.
alive. My grandma's still alive. She's very old, but she's still alive.
You didn't answer my question.
Oh, she was nice. She
She's
was
nice. Okay.
she's a Jewish grandmother, so like she will try to feed you copious amounts of food at all hours of the day. Like
Mm-hmm.
I will come to visit and I'll get in at like 2 p.m. and I'll have just eaten lunch and I'll get to her condo and she'll have like a 7-course meal sitting out for me and be like, eat, you have to eat. Grandma, I literally, like, well, I call her Bubby. I don't call her grandma, but Bubby, I literally just ate lunch. And she'd be like, I don't care. Eat all the food. Why aren't you eating? Why aren't you eating?
You're wasting away. That's what you're doing.
Yeah, exactly. Very Jewish
Yeah.
grandmother.
Well, I think there's overlap with Puerto Rican grandmothers there too.
I've heard that.
Yeah. So one of them was very nice. The other one, not so much. But both of them really tried their best to feed me at all hours of the day. So
Yeah, I feel
there's
that.
that
Yep.
at least.
Yep. Well, speaking of feeding, back to chocolate.
Talk to me about the vibe giver in this
Yes.
chapter.
So my chocolate was Lily. Just in general, her fierceness in this chapter, her willingness to drop a lifelong friendship the second she realized that he didn't actually respect her as a human, and like only saw her as someone who he could try and control, and just like not willing to take an ounce of shit from him the second he called her a mudblood. Like she was willing to drop him immediately when her eyes were open to like what was going on with him.
Oh, this is great because this is the start of it, and my chocolate is the end of it.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so my chocolate is basically the other only redeeming moment of Snape's that I found in the chapter, which was when the portrait of one of the previous headmasters, right, was like calling
Phineas Nigellus Black.
Phineas Nigellus Black was calling Hermione a mudblood, and Severus said, "Do not use that word."
Yeah,
and that was in the privacy of his office. I want to preface this. It was in the privacy of his office. He didn't have to like prove anything to anyone, not
right.
Dumbledore, not Voldemort, whoever, right? So there's some growth there, and I wanted to acknowledge that. But even if there's growth there, I still think not enough.
It felt super forced. The reason I didn't love that is because like when I read that, it was like this is the author. Yeah, this is the author like fully trying to like use any thing any like sub or like what is the word? What's any situation? Haha, that's word. Any situation she can, to like be like, look, he's a good guy now. Look what I'm doing.
Okay, so here's what I'm thinking, right? She fucked up in this chapter so many times because the best way to make it look like he was actually a redeemable character was to change a lot of key scenes we had not seen before.
Mm-hmm.
Especially when it came to like him not caring if Harry died or if James died.
Yeah.
Or, like there were a lot of moments here that she could have made him far more human and far more redeemable and just made it be like, in public, yeah, he's gonna act still like he has a beef with James and he hates Harry, and that's why he uh, treats all non-Slytherin students badly. Like he could have, it could have been a much better arc
Right.
if she truly wanted to redeem him. But then she had to insert things here that are not real love, that are not, like
Right.
that's what I find umbrage with, right? So like, so if this moment would have seemed far less forced had we not seen those key moments,
Right.
or had those
Yes.
key moments being rewritten in a way that show growth and show remorse.
Right.
And if that fucking dough always thing, like
Right.
just
Yes. I agree. Like, I would have believed it if I didn't feel like it was already like something that she was trying to shove down my throat. Like, believe
no,
this.
no,
Uh,
yeah, no, I understand. I was just trying to take it at
yeah.
like face value of maybe he
Yeah.
didn't
And
maybe he didn't evolve in these other ways,
right.
right? But at least in this particular way, he did evolve.
Yeah. And I think honestly, and the way, like, what I rather than evolving, part of the evolving, I guess, not rather than, but part of the evolving, I think this is a reaction to trauma. Like, I think, like, he was traumatized by losing the one friendship that meant the most to him because of using this word, and it's like it's like a trauma reaction. Like,
Yeah.
now that one word is linked to like everything bad that's ever happened in his life. Like, he's like,
Okay.
I lost the biggest, most important thing in my life because of that word, and now that word is like, it like symbolizes like that trauma for him.
I
That's
feel
kind of
like it
how
would have
I
been
kind of read it.
my other chocolate was going to be when like Severus was telling Dumbledore, like, oh, okay, so you want me to kill you now? Like, what's the plan? Basically, just like he was like kind of saying dryly, and Dumbledore was like, ha ha ha, no, no, not yet, not quite yet, not quite yet.
Yeah, they
And
were
I was
like
like, oh,
joking about it.
that was like a quite dark comedy moment that I really enjoyed.
Yeah, and I think, well, so I think it's because like Snape is like, "You're joking. This is funny," and then Snape and Dumbledore's like, "Haha, I'm not joking. You actually have to kill me." Haha.
Exactly. Because he's like, shall I do it now then?
Right. Like, "Oh, you silly goose, not yet."
Not yet. Yeah. So, I mean, they're not quite vibe givers like mine, but they're like, it's not, there's so much to hate in the chapter. You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah. It was kind of difficult to think of like an actual chocolate.
This chapter is a vibe killer. Let's be real.
For sure, 100%.
Speaking of vibes, tell me all about the things that you've been watching or reading or whatever that give you good vibes,
I have too many this week, so I'm going to try and
or
be really
maybe medium vibes.
I'm going to try and be really quick because I have too many and I want to at least touch like briefly on it, on multiple things. First of all, well, I didn't write this down, but I did finish Fleabag, and I know you and I talked about it. Last time we recorded, I had just like started it. So yes, I liked season 2 better than season 1. I
It is
discussed,
iconic.
yes, and I discussed this with you, but the ending made me very, very sad. Um, but it's such a like fun, fast watch. And I kind of like wish I had been watching it when it was more in its prime, but I think it's still very like enjoyable. So recommend that.
Hair is everything.
Would you say hair is everything?
Hair is everything. That's an iconic line from season 2.
Wait, what part is that?
When her sister gets the haircut.
Oh, yes. Okay. Yes.
Hair is everything.
Yeah, I do remember that now. Yeah, her whole sister's storyline was great.
Claire and
Claire,
Claire.
Claire and Claire. Yeah, that was cute. And then I took a break. I'm still watching Psych. I'm almost done, but I took a break from watching Psych this weekend to watch a cult documentary because, as you know, and as my sister knows, because she is the one that recommends all of these to me, I love myself a good cult documentary.
Yeah, same.
And this one is actually not new. I just didn't know about it until recently. It was released in 2020. It's on HBO Max. I can't remember the exact name, but it's about the Heaven's Gate cult.
Mm-hmm.
I think it literally might just be called Heaven's Gate. And do you know what this cult is?
Yes.
Okay, I'm gonna remind the listeners because it's fucking weird. Uh,
It's called Heaven's Gate: The Cult of Cults.
right. Okay. Heaven's Gate: The Cult of Cults on HBO Max. So Heaven's Gate cult was like this cult that was made by literally a psycho, somebody in a not a psycho. What's the word? Um, someone who's being treated for psychosis,
Mm-hmm.
and their nurse from the mental hospital like broke off to create this cult around basically a religion that is saying, like, they made up this thing that they are like next level beings stuck in human bodies, which they called vehicles, and they are going to graduate from their human vehicles and the earthly plane and go and be taken up to heaven on a UFO after they transform into aliens.
Mm-hmm.
So um that was the
Mm-hmm.
cult was going around finding people who wanted to transform their human vehicles into aliens so that they could go up on a UFO and fly up to heaven as aliens. So that was the cult. um it was interesting. Um, but I think the most interesting part of it was that it is still to this day the largest case of mass suicide in the United States. Um, 39
Mm-hmm.
people in
Yeah, it is.
1997, I think, um, committed mass suicide. 39 people killed themselves, thinking that they had been given the sign that because there was like a comet going past Earth. It was. And so they thought that that was their sign
Mm-hmm.
that the
Yeah.
UFO was coming to pick them up, and they needed to graduate from their human vehicles to become the alien selves that can go on the UFO to go up to heaven. So in order to do that, they had to expire their human bodies. And I think honestly, one of the craziest parts was that literally all 39 people who killed themselves like made video testimonials before they killed themselves talking about how excited they were to kill themselves. I was like, holy shit.
Yeah. There. It was
Yeah, it was
just
like
mass
bonkers.
delusion.
And by the way, when I first started this, I thought like, because I know that there's, and I don't remember what this is actually from, but I know that there's like a thing where like don't drink the Kool-Aid came from, where like apparently a bunch of people died.
Oh, that's the
Okay.
Jones.
So yeah,
Yeah.
when I first saw like the beginning of this, where it was like, oh, the mass suicide or whatever, I thought maybe this was the Kool-Aid one, but it's not. They committed mass
No.
suicide by like suffocating themselves. Like they did it in like shifts. Like the first team suffocated a certain amount of people with plastic bags, and then the next team did it, and then the last people killed themselves, and it was well, like, what? It wasn't murder. Like they killed themselves with the plastic bags, and then the teams like covered them up and like all the and
So it's the Don't Drink the Kool-Aid was a mass murder slash suicide from the Jim Jones People's
okay,
Temple cult, and they had moved to Guyana in a compound, and it's considered murder and suicide because they also gave the poison to
right,
children.
okay, yeah. I wonder if there's a cult documentary on that because I would watch that.
Oh, it
Oh,
is. There are
oh,
multiple
well then
ones. Yeah.
I will watch that eventually. But yeah, that was insane. And then the last thing I wanted to touch on was I finally started The Mandalorian. I don't know if this is something that you've
I
watched.
have not, but my husband does with
Okay,
Lynn.
because I'm actually not a huge Star Wars fan. I don't know if we've ever talked about this on the pod.
But are you a Pedro
But
Pascal
I am the
fan?
biggest Pedro Pascal fan. Yes, that was a very big deciding factor into watching this show. Uh,
Was it that you saw Pedro Pascal's knees at the Met Gala and you were like, you know what I want to do? Start The
well, it was just
Mandalorian.
really sad that I had run out of like TV shows of him protecting a small child to watch, and so I had to start a new one.
Guys, it was the knees. It was basically just she saw
Yeah.
his knees, and it was like the same effect as a Victorian man seeing a woman's
Yes.
ankle.
So the hard
Like she
part,
was
so like
like,
I suffer for my love though, because you do not see Pedro Pascal's face until the last episode of season 1 in
I am aware
so
of this.
and I knew this going in, but I was like, I'm gonna do it anyway because his voice is enough to hold me over until it happens. Uh, but honestly, the thing that actually, until I saw his face, the thing that like made me like love the show the most was
Was it
the little
Grogu?
baby Yoda. He's so
Yeah.
cute. I couldn't like the first episode was like meh because like I'm not a Star Wars fan, so I've seen everything. Like I've seen all the movies. I've seen like the original trilogy. I've seen the prequels. I've seen the new trilogy with like Rey. Um, I've seen them all. I'm just like, it's Star Wars. That's fine. I'm not like a huge fan. I don't hate it like Lord of the Rings, and I don't love it like Harry Potter. But it's like, mid. Um, so like the first episode was just like, okay, fine, whatever. But then at the very end, like and I know his name is Grogu, but at the point I'm at in the show, they haven't told us his name, so it's just the child. But at the very end, the child like does something so freaking cute, and I was like, okay, I'm gonna watch another one just so I can see more of that. Because like, what if the child does something cute again? I can't miss that. It was so adorable, and that's partly like like it tainted me a little bit in this chapter reread because I was like, but the baby. What if it was Baby Yoda and he was willing to kill Baby Yoda? There's like a scene in The Mandalorian, like in like one of the later episodes, where two stormtroopers have captured the baby, um, and they like punch it, and I was like, I'm gonna jump through my fucking TV screen and cut your balls off and poke your eyes out and kill you in every harmful, hurtful way imaginable because you do not punch this little baby. I swear to God. And they did it twice. I was so livid. And so then just thinking about that with the fucking Snape thing, I was like, you little shit. You little shit. That thing is adorable. It's a baby.
Okay, Helene, I need you to look at your text messages.
Yes. Oh, this one, man. That's like porn.
I said to the listeners who can't see this, I sent Helene three pictures of Pedro Pascal with his slutty little knees at the
Oh
Met
my
Gala.
God. This man, he does things to me. So yeah,
This is now a Pedro Pascal fan club.
yes.
Last week it was Emily Henry. This week it's
I
Pedro
mean,
Pascal. A little bit more spicy.
I can't with that man. That man is just so beautiful. So yeah, I finished season 1, and so I have to. I'm about to start season 2. But yes, the extension of the Pedro Pascal grumpily like protecting a small child universe. I'm here for it. Like he does it in the Last of Us, loved it. He does it in The Mandalorian, amazing. Like let's just keep making things where Pedro Pascal has to grumpily protect a small child. I don't care what the other premises are. It could be underwater for all I damn care. Like just keep on doing things like that.
Pedro Pascal, Merman. Yes.
Yes. Yes.
I like it. I like it. What if he was like King Triton in a new adaptation? Even yet more adaptations.
Little Mermaid, except instead of like the normal Little Mermaid stuff, it's he has to grumpily protect little baby Ariel from things. It's just Pedro Pascal and little baby Ariel just walking around. Yeah.
Just swimming around.
Yeah, swimming, right? Because they're underwater, right?
That's the whole point. They can't walk.
Right. Unless they go to Ursula and then get their legs.
But then without a voice, how can he grumpily grumble about things? Come on, girl.
He can make grumpy facial expressions.
Okay. Anyway, that's not the other. Is that all?
Yes,
Is
that
that
is
all
it.
you
That's all.
were
That's all.
doing? That's
That's
all.
all.
Okay. Did you finish Beach Read?
Oh,
What is
sorry. Yeah, I
happening
forgot. I
there?
completely skipped over that. Yes, I finished Beach Read by Emily Henry, and then I did read the first two chapters of Happy Place last night. So I am jumping into that one. But yes, I thoroughly enjoyed Beach Read. It's not my favorite. Like People We Meet on Vacation is still my favorite. It does rank above Book Lovers for me.
I did not expect any less.
Yeah.
I know you, and after reading all of them, I knew. Like I was like, if I start her with Beach Read, she's not going to read the
Well,
rest.
no,
But if
I
I
did
start
really.
her with People Who Meet on
I no,
Vacation,
I think if you had started me with Book Lovers, I might not have read the rest. To be honest,
yeah, no. But when we started you on this Emily Henry
right?
journey, Book Lovers wasn't
That's
out.
true. That's true. Yeah, because I did love Book Lovers, but it's not. It's so like such a departure. So from like what I'm used to in the other books.
Book Lovers is my favorite because I can see myself in the protagonist when I can
Yeah.
very
See,
rarely
yeah,
see myself in
and
a
I totally get that.
protagonist.
And actually, that's kind of how I feel about January in Beach Read. Like, I see myself the most in that protagonist. Although, in multiple times throughout the book, it's talked about how she has such a fucking nice body, and I'm like, okay, I can't relate to that specifically, uh, but like everything else,
Well, clearly that is Emily Henry
yeah, I
herself.
was
You know
like,
what I
damn,
mean?
this girl, like, all they do is they talk about her body a lot. But no, like, she's by far the most relatable protagonist for me. Like, People We Meet on Vacation, I couldn't relate to either protagonist. I couldn't relate to Alex or Poppy, to be honest, but I just loved their love story so much and, like, the way it was told and all that stuff.
Oh no, that's exactly what I was going for when I
Yeah.
said,
So like
yeah.
I couldn't relate to
I was
them, but
like,
I was like,
she's gonna love this love
this is
story.
such a great love story. I don't care if like I can't see myself. And it was like good to like kind of learn about people that I couldn't relate to, just like kind of read it from the outside. But yeah, I liked Beach Read a lot because of January. And then also the part at the I'm not gonna like spoiler anything, but there's a part at the end where she's reading a bunch of letters. I won't say who they're from or what they're about, but I lost it. And because of things that have gone on recently in my life surrounding the situation in which her letters came to her, like I related too hard and I just sobbed for like 12 pages straight. It was like every time I would read a letter and then calm down and then start reading the next letter and start sobbing and then it was like a cycle, but it was very good. It was very good.
Sounds like you felt all the feelings.
I did. Yes. And I was like
Okay.
it was just mainly that part with the reading the letters. The rest of the love story was like very very good and I love how it ended, but the love story itself didn't exactly get me to feel all the feelings. But I loved the characters and I loved the whole premise, and so yeah, highly recommend.
Yeah. Well, I only have one thing to talk about. Unlike other people
I know
around here,
it's too many things.
I have a I I highly recommend if your theater is showing this near you, the film Polite Society. It is about a teenager who aspires to be a stunt woman
Ooh.
and her sister, who is an aspiring artist, until she becomes engaged to be married. And
Ooh.
the teenager, the aspiring stunt woman, is trying to make her sister realize that marriage is not the answer to her, artistic failure, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because she feels like her sister feels stuck. I'm not giving anything away, and it's about family, and it's got some kung fu in it. it's kind of like that blend of like reality and fantasy kind of thing, and it's like a it has its really lighthearted funny moments, and I thoroughly enjoyed it, and I thoroughly enjoyed the story, and it had depth and it had meaning, and it was silly and it was fun, and it had all the things.
Oh, I love
It's great.
that. Okay, definitely gonna like add that to my list. It did remind me of a couple of other theater related. So, one, did you hear about this movie? I haven't watched it yet, but I think it's
Okay.
what's it called again? Is it Love Again? I think it's called Love Again. With Priyanka Chopra Jonas.
Oh yes,
it's a
I
new
saw
rom
that. I saw the
yeah, it's a
trailer.
new rom-com. I did not know until I knew the only thing I had known about this until recently was that it starred Priyanka Chopra Jonas and that Nick Jonas made a cameo in it. So I was like, I have to watch it just for that like piece of information alone. But I did just learn recently. I don't know how I didn't know this, but the main lead is Sam Heughan from Outlander, and I was like, oh my god,
I mean,
beautiful, beautiful
figured
man.
that.
I have not seen him in anything outside of Outlander. I don't think ever. So I'm very excited to see it now.
He will forever in my heart be Jamie. You know what I
Oh my
mean?
gosh, yes, yes. I am very, very excited. Outlander returns in June with season 7.
Well, I guess we'll be watching that
Yeah.
too. Even though I'm not super excited.
Yeah, I mean, it's gotten kind of less spicy over the last couple seasons.
It's gotten kind of
Yeah.
stale, you know?
But hopefully it'll still be good. Oh, and then the other thing
But
was, oh, go ahead. Sorry.
I'm just thinking, like, I also think it's kind of hard to be like, where else can they fuck?
Yeah, I mean, the thing is, like, I feel like they've kind of put like the Jamie and Claire fucking to the wayside at this point.
Back
Yeah,
burner,
they're like,
yeah.
yeah, we've seen them that happen enough times, doesn't matter anymore. It's like, no, that's like why I'm watching this show. That's why I watch. Like, I watch the show for that. Like, no shame. That is why I watch the show.
I mean, no shame. I too watch the show for that, but I also even more watch the show for Jamie being like the absolute perfect
Oh yeah,
man,
no, it's
honestly.
it's nice to see a fictional version of what I hope exists somewhere out in the world.
Mhm.
Speaking of perfect men, the other thing I was going to say was I finally went and saw the Dungeons and Dragons movie. I don't know if I told you this.
My husband.
And Beautiful Chris Pine, yes. But yes, it was hilarious. It was very
I
it was
loved
very
it.
predictable. Like I 100% knew how like what was
Oh,
going to happen.
no.
But it
Of course. I wasn't saying it's like a cinematic masterpiece. It's just
no,
funny and
no,
fun.
it was definitely like the plot was very predictable, but it was hilarious, and there are so many things that I still
Yeah.
laugh about, like just thinking about them.
The Hugh Grant balloon?
Yes, yeah,
Come
that was
on.
funny. I was thinking of Jarnathan, like, sorry, like we approved your request. That's just so funny. I can't. Um, and then the part where the sorcerer is making the like illusion of Chris Pine playing the lute or whatever, and then it like
Yeah. And then, like, he
malfunctions.
starts like
And that was literal nightmare fuel. Like the part where his eyes start like getting really big.
like pop out. Yeah.
I was like, oh my god, I'm gonna have nightmares about this. But it was hilarious. It was so funny.
Honestly, it was so good.
Yeah, that was like that movie was way better than it had any right to be. And Regé Jean Page, or is it Reggae?
Oh, he was one of my favorite parts as well because he was like so
When he when he
like
walks in when he
uptight.
walks away and he's like rocking in a straight line, he just walks over the rock. I lost it. I absolutely lost it.
Like I felt like him like that was really good. And please don't come for me because I'm on the spectrum. Please don't come for me. This is just my opinion of like really good representation of someone on the spectrum. Like taking things so fucking literally.
Yeah, I can see that.
Right?
Yeah.
And like trying to do like by the book, very
Very rule follower,
not
yeah.
taking rule follower, like not getting like figurative speech a
Yeah.
lot, just being like, no, but what's
Right.
I don't, like I don't get it. Like it was. Please don't come for me. This is just my experience as someone who is on the spectrum. But I thought that was pretty good representation for me in my experience.
Yeah. Also, I was just shocked that because he's so beautiful and he's known for how beautiful he is, that like they didn't at least try to give us a shirtless moment at least one time in that film. I know. I was like, where? I was like, oh, the movie ended, and I was like, but I didn't get to see Regé Jean Page without his shirt on.
But we did get him. Okay, but let's be real. We did get him in period clothing, something he excels
Yes, of course.
at. And there were some like wet period clothing moments, I believe.
That's true. Yes. Speaking of period clothing, another thing I completely forgot, and we can move on after this. But did you watch Queen Charlotte Bridgerton story?
Not yet. That is on my list. As you may have heard, I have been having a tough time.
No, yeah, you've been busy, but it's 6 episodes. I binged them all on Saturday. And it's worth it. I honestly, it's not my favorite season of Bridgerton. Like, technically, I don't know if it would count. I think it counts as a season of Bridgerton, to be honest. Even though it's technically a prequel.
I saw a poster for maybe season 3, but it didn't have a date yet.
Okay. Yeah, and the reason I
Wow.
count it as a season of Bridgerton is because it actually like does have time like parts where it shows like current day, like between seasons 2 and 3, like what's happening, but only for very select
Okay.
few characters. But
So it's a good tie-in,
it's
is what
it,
you're saying, like a novella.
you learn
Like
more about basically Violet and Lady Danbury.
Danbury.
I was like, how am I forgetting her name? And you will obviously you learn more about Queen Charlotte, but like Violet and Lady Danbury, you kind of like learn more about their backstory. But then also like there's a part where like Violet is talking about like, oh, Anthony's on his honeymoon, so like that part is happening like right after season 2. So it is kind of like a little bridged gap thing. So I'm counting it as a season, but I will say it's not my favorite because it is fucking sad. It's great.
Well, I've heard it's very
Yeah,
sad.
it's great, and like the love story is great, and the acting and the characters and the story is great. It's just very sad. Like it's not a happy romp. I'll tell you that. Don't watch it thinking it's going to be a nice happy love story romp. It's not.
Well, I didn't think it would be because, I mean, we see in season 2 what's happened to the
Yeah, and it's
king,
also
you
actually
know?
historically accurate. That happened. Like King George
Mm-hmm.
III did marry Queen Charlotte, and he did actually have what they think was undiagnosed bipolar disorder, is what they think it was. But
Oh,
yeah, it's sad. It's very sad, but I recommend
well,
it.
with that vibe frequency, I think that's time for us to say goodbye. That's it for today's episode. Please join us next time as we talk about chapter 34 of Harry Potter and the Deathly Hallows, and it's titled The Forest Again.
Yes, and if you've enjoyed this conversation, please take a second to give us a 5-star rating on Apple Podcasts, because it helps new listeners discover our podcast, and it makes us all happy inside. And there's a bug on my wall that Albus is doing his darndest to kill, even though he can't reach it. So that's a little
All right.
look into my life at the moment.
Bonus
Yeah.
content. Well, until then, politics managed.
Support this show by going to patreon.com/acciopolitics. Our patrons keep this show going. You can find us online at acciopolitics.com, and we are at acciopolitics on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. You can email us your thoughts at info@acciopolitics.com. Leave us a voicemail at 915-996-1699, and you might just hear yourself on the podcast. Adriana Wilson is the founder and creative director of the podcast. Helene Karp is the producer and social media manager. Allison Pullman is the audio wizard and editor who makes us sound so good. Cover art and physical rewards are designed by Adriana Wilson. The views expressed by the hosts and guests are expressly their own and not representative of their employers or associates. Acciopolitics is part of the MuggleNet family of podcasts.